Hello team, this challenge is RGB to hex, where we're given an RGB value, a CSS value, and we need to convert it to its hex code equivalent. So for this, we're going to test things to make sure that they're actually RGB, and then we are going to do some math to get our final result. Okay, and that looks a lot like this. The first thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that this is actually an RGB, right? They've kind of guaranteed it to us, but what if somebody passes something else in? Well, then the whole thing breaks, right? So let's make sure by doing an if, okay? And we are going to test a regular expression. Now that regular expression is going to be a literal RGB followed by a parentheses, but parentheses are protected characters. So we need to escape that, okay? So backslash, then the parentheses. Then we get into our numbers, and we're allowed to have 1, 2, 3, right? It can be anywhere from a 0 to 255, right? So could we do this a special way and test all that? Yeah. But for today, I'm just going to go any numbers from 1 to 3, which could possibly break things, but we'll keep going with this, okay? From there, we get a comma with a possible white space, okay? And there may or may not be white space, so we need to account for that, and that's how I'm doing it. They've guaranteed that it will be a comma space. I like to protect myself, so that's what I'm doing right now, okay? We do that 2 more times, but cleaning out this space, so we have a number that is 1 to 3 digits, followed by a comma and a possible space, followed by a number with a comma, space, and another number, and then we end it with another closing parentheses. But again, it's protected, so we need to backspace escape that, okay? This feels very complicated until you break it down. You have basically 3 numbers in here, separated by a comma space with the parentheses and the literal RGB, right? It hopefully makes sense. From here, we want to run that as a test, okay? So testing right here, and we're testing against RGB, just like this, RGB. And if that is not true, so all the way at the beginning, if that is not true, then throw new error like this, and maybe that can be not RGB, right? So right out of the gate, we're testing to make sure that the input that we're getting is what we actually expect. Otherwise, the rest of this doesn't really make any sense, okay? So from here, we want to peel out those numbers. We want to get those numbers out, and that is going to be like this. So we get the RGB values. It's going to be what? Well, it's going to be RGB.match. And again, we're going to use another regular expression. We're going to get any numbers, right? And we want as many characters as we want. There should only be 1 to 3 because we've already tested against that. So we're just going to grab them all, and that should give us, if I spelt this right here, that should give us an array of 3 digits. Okay, how do we know it's 3? Or sorry, 3 numbers, not 3 digits, 3 numbers. Well, because we tested for 3, right? There's 1, 2, 3. So if it passed here, then we should have 3 separate numbers inside of an array for RGB values, okay? From here, we do our maths, okay? So we go and we get our hex values, spelling it right, just like this. And that is going to be equal to RGB values dot map, okay? Dropping it to a new line just because I'm silly like that, but map. And we have our value, sending it through, doing the thing. What are we doing? Well, we're returning that value. But remember that the matches, it's matching strings, right? So our value right now is a string. We should probably force it to be a number, right? And then from here, we convert it back to a string, which is very weird, but because it's a number, toString allows us to pass in a radix, right? And for this, we want that radix to be 16, which is hexadecimal, right? Normally, it would be 10, base 10, which is decimal. That's what we normally counted, right? If you were doing binary, you could do 2, but today we're using 16. There is a chance that this will be a single character, right? So for this, we pad start How many? Well, we want at least 2 characters because really that's what it should be, right? And we are going to pad that out with zeros. From here, the final bit is to return it, right? So we get a number sign because we needed that, and plus hex values dot join, joining on an empty string just like this, and it works, okay? The hardest part is really the initial test. Everything that comes next, it just works because of that initial test, right? We've tested to make sure we're getting the actual thing that we want. Again, there's a little chance that they could put like 999,999,999 in there. That, I mean, if they did, well, that's kind of on them, I guess. But at least making sure that the shape of the data is correct so that we can be sure that we're peeling off 3 values here and then iterating over that and joining it and getting something that we would actually expect to be there, okay? Again, not every solution, just hopefully one good solution. If you found others or you want to share what you found too, hit me up in those comments. Otherwise, today this has been RGB to hex, and I will see you in the next one.